You hear that? As Matt would say, here we are, another day in the shop. Very exciting day. As many of you know, I've ridden a lot of Industry 9 hubs over the last, half dozen years. Fantastic product, love it. This Santa Cruz Reserve wheel set uses the Industry 9 Torch hub, works fantastic. A lot of my other bikes have the Industry 9 Hydra hub, also works fantastic. But another gold standard mountain bike hubs is a brand called DT Swiss. If you haven't heard of it, go out to your garage, look at your bike, it might have a DT Swiss hub. Probably like a 40% chance it does. I've been lucky enough that DT Swiss noticed my videos somehow, maybe from when I did a video converting a hub from 36 points of engagement over to 54 with one of these handy little kits. They're like $100, Jensen USA has them in stock. So they reached out to me and said, hey, we've got a new hub design coming out. It's pretty cool, we want you to try it out. So they sent a wheel set built up with the new hub design. There's a lot more engagement on the new DT Swiss DEG series hub. I don't know if I should pronounce that as like Deg or Dej or something like that. They're Swiss, so I don't know what language they use. Could be French, could be German.
Inscrivez-vous maintenant.
Let's dive into this complicated little nut of a hub discussion. This is what you're all familiar with, 40% of you. DT Swiss 350, the most ubiquitous OEM rear hub out there. Very common, excellent product. The engagement system to drive the bicycle forward when you're coasting is really, really cool. Very simple. So it uses what DT calls star ratchets. I thought I was gonna drop it in the dirt, make it look disgusting. So these star ratchets are really cool, very simple. They just mesh together, and with a spring providing tension, you can freewheel, you can coast, and when you go to pedal, there's full engagement between both of these things together. They make these in 18 engagement teeth, 36, which is what this is, and then 54, which is what the cool guys all run until now. Next example of how hubs work is our Industry 9 Hydra. Torch would also work. This is the most common free hub design out there. The most common, especially with aftermarket or anything made in Taiwan for the most part, is a pawl system. And pawls are these really hard pieces of metal here. I think these are steel, supported with little springs, and these are being pushed against an engagement ring of teeth. The Hydra system has a ton of these teeth in here, but what's more important about Hydra is these pawls are all run slightly out of phase, so when you go to pedal, a couple of them engage right away, and as you add some more pedal force, other ones start to contact as the hub has just a tiny little bit of flex in it. Really cool system, ends up having incredibly fast engagement. Now the new system from DT Swiss, I'm pretty excited about. It's some clever engineering. So check this out. They still use the same star ratchet system, but they've made it much, much, much larger. And as a result, they're able to get 90 engagement teeth in here to much improve the actual engagement of the hub. The advantage of this system over the pawl system is that there's fewer moving parts, so it's less likely to have a failure. This is a really cool design, and I think it's gonna prove to be quite durable. The price is gonna be fairly reasonable, and it's gonna work good. So check out the differences here. The new design and the old design. So to complete that thought, there's two cool updates here. One, the amount of engagement has super gone up, which is cool. I think after 54 teeth, honestly, you're pretty good. The difference between 100 and 400 is not nearly as much as the difference between 36 to 54. That's worth mentioning, but that's gonna be a really cool benefit that now it's gonna be really easy to get super high engagement. The other cool thing is that because this is so much bigger, it should be a lot stronger on the trail. I'm gonna throw on that set of wheels DT built me, and we'll start riding them. I've been testing these Santa Cruz Reserve wheels on my Ibis Ripmo V2S. I really like this bike. Look at it as the gold standard for what a good all-around trail bike is. But I'm saying this because my good supporters over at Jensen USA, they sponsored this video, made it possible. Jensen is a leading online retailer in the United States of America, not just for things like Ibis bikes, Reserve wheels, but also DT Swiss, hubs, wheels, and various components to get your hubs set up proper. This includes those 54-point star ratchets that we used previously. And for the new DEG hub, you can find all of this over at Jensen USA, and I'll drop a link in the YouTube description below. It takes you over to the DT Swiss page at Jensen, and then anything you purchase from Jensen, whether it's a new hub, a new wheel set, or a new Ripmo, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, that'll help support my channel, and that's a big part of how we're able to do this whole YouTube video thing. Big thanks to Jensen USA, and thanks to all of you for responding well to the videos, for trying out stuff, letting me know in the comments what you like, what you're dissatisfied with. I appreciate all the feedback, everyone. Let's get the wheels on, and then the fun part. Sounds good. I'm gonna try out a weird combo with an Argotol front tire and a Xenotol rear tire, both from Continental. I did a review of Continental tires about a year ago. I'd like to try a few more because they're pretty good. I have to use tire levers. Hack.
Before we get into the hub review, which, spoiler alert, is pretty positive, I'd like to mention that the Continental Argotol and Xenotol tires, both in the downhill, super soft compound, were disappointing in the wet around here. The rubber compound is way firmer than Maxxis's Max Grip, so wet roots and deep mud were a bit of a disaster. Even the WTB High Grip compound feels quite a bit better than the Argotol and Xenotol. This surprises me since I did enjoy the Cryptotols a year ago. Anyhow, I pulled those Connie tires off after a few rides and went back to the Maxxis High Grip rubber for the duration of this hub test. So let's get into it. Engagement is good. Heck, it's often enough to throw a party, but it's only a precursor to what really matters. Your main goal is to propel yourself forward, and ideally, your bike as well. Anyone who has experienced a total driveline failure will attest to how bad it sucks to pedal and find yourself meeting the earth head first. Please do comment down below with your best broken chain or skipping free hub story. I'll add my own story too. Let's have a quick audio comparison between a few common rear hubs.
I have scientifically engineered this sound booth to find out what exactly these hubs all sound like. This room is perfect because there's lots of carpet and sound deadening. First one up, DT Swiss 240 with the new DEG 90 points of engagement free hub. Let's spin it. Here we go. This is the stock OEM wheel from the Orbea Occam. This is a DT Swiss 350 series rear hub with the stock 36 points of engagement, dual ratchet. Ready, steady, spaghetti! Here we have the stock wheel from the Rocky Mountain Altitude. I only have a handful of rides on this, whereas the Orbea wheel has been beaten to its ever-living end. This should be a bit quieter because it's got less miles. Let's spin it. We're back on the Rocky Mountain Altitude OEM rear wheel, DT Swiss 350 hub, but I swapped over to the 54 tooth ratchet for a bit faster engagement. It sounds a lot different too. Have a listen. Getty! Right here we have a old and probably pretty clapped out Industry 9 Hydra rear hub that I've ridden for 3 or 4 years, and this should be our loudest one yet. So here we have the Santa Cruz Reserve back wheel that uses Industry 9 1.1 series hub. This is basically a torch hub, but made slightly easier. So it's a little less money. It's like the old design, pretty loud, pretty cool. Spaghetti! And there we have it. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wheels spun. My favorite sound was probably the Hydra. Not so much for the noise, but for just how precise it sounds. It's got a cool sound to it.
Rear hubs have a hard life. They're hidden behind both the cassette and rotor, as well as behind several pieces of the frame. Just like some people's kids, they only make themselves apparent when they fail. Something else is at play here, and ideally not the bearings of the hub, pun intended. So the majority of rear hubs are sold as part of a complete bicycle, and the owner rarely ever thinks about them. But only us super nerds really get into upgrading and changing a rear hub. I used to think a fast engagement hub makes a huge difference. Now that I'm a bit older and hopefully wiser, I still agree that high engagement is nice. But engagement on its own really isn't all that huge of a deal.
I haven't ridden this in like 5 or 6 years. I don't know if I can get it, but we're gonna try it first with the fancy DEG hub. Maybe we'll make it. We got all the tricks helping us right now, including hopefully a strong tailwind. Okay, now let's try that with less hub engagement. Hill climb challenge, attempt lower engagement rear hub. Will it make a difference? Sandy. All right, both hubs made it. Was there much of a difference? If there was, it was very slight. I did feel like I had more connection to the rear wheel with the higher engagement one. It's a very subtle difference though. Did that extra connection help? I think it helped to start with accelerating. That was it. Had a little more control up top. But 36 points for this wasn't bad.
After some time adapting to it, I can now ride the 36 points of engagement on the stock 350 hubs just fine. especially for regular old trail riding. Upgrading to the 54 tooth is nice, but I don't think it matters for like 99.5% of situations. Lately, I've ridden a much wider variety of bikes and parts compared to what I did a few years ago, and I've been adapting just fine between 36 and 54, as well as the Hydra 690 points of engagement.
Oh, it's so scary.
For that 0.5% of trying to show off your trial skills in the parking lot, well, the extra high engagement is nice for that. I think what's more important than engagement is overall riding experience. Do the hub's bearings last a long time? My Industry 9 hubs are all pretty old now, and it's time to replace many of those bearings. DT hubs will also eventually need bearing replacement as well. This is all normal and okay. Over the last 20 years, I've actually had better luck with sealed cartridge hub bearings than I have with adjustable bearings. For a road bike, an adjustable cup and cone system can work quite well. But when applied to the abuse a full suspension mountain bike applies to that rear hub, especially on a few designs that rely on the rear axle for much of the frame's torsional stiffness, well, that adjustable bearing model just doesn't really stay tight in my experiences. While your bike is dancing around through corners of jagged rocks and roots on a treacherous trail, it's impossible to notice if your rear hub and bearings are still tight. Both the Industry 9 and DT hubs have held up well to this sort of abuse. I'll gladly swap bearings once every couple years over needing to constantly monitor any sort of adjuster nut. I really wanted to try these DEG hubs on an EMTB like the Pivot Shuttle SL I'm on now. But unfortunately, that bike is a Super Boost 157 rear end, and these DT hubs came to me in the 148 size that fits the other 10 bikes I'm currently riding. Coasting drag is something worth mentioning. Historically, as engagement got higher, there could be moments when you'd go to coast and your chain would be dragging forward, often resulting in a crazy low chain tension when it's time to pedal. Out of the box brand new, the DEG system had slightly more coasting drag than the old Star Ratchet, but after 2 or so rides, this was a non-issue. After a couple months riding the DEG system, I'm quite happy with it. It does exactly what it needs to, and with a refreshingly simple system. I really trust these to be reliable for the long haul. I was also impressed with the XM 481 rims. I wasn't kind to those buggers, and they've held up great. I'm sure we'll see this system popping up on more and more bikes as a stock rear hub, and I think that's a good thing.
I'll do it again. I didn't hit record.
When I was a wee lad, I used to play around with a little bit of trials. I was really bad at it. Still bad at it. But once in a while, you find yourself wanting to do something like this while you're still in your house slippers. Oh. I think the DEG hub is a great step forward for DT Swiss. I'm looking forward to seeing more bikes coming with this rear hub, and I want to thank DT Swiss for trusting me to do a video about this, so thank you, DT. Big thanks to Jensen USA for sponsoring this. Jensen's a top dealer for DT Swiss in the United States. I've got all the DT product at Jensen USA linked to in the description down below. Pop over there, take a look at the DEG hubs, read all the proper details and pricing info for yourself. Big thanks to all of you for showing up and joining this video. And I want to read your driveline failure stories down in the comments down below. So share that with all of us, please. All right, peace and wheelies. We got bike rides to go on.
Perfect.
Still wheeling.
Still wheeling?
Yep.
Where you going?
Around the house.
Oh, okay. I'll see you in a sec. If he doesn't pop out of there, still in a wheelie, color me disappointed. Is that the thing?
This is the hardest part of this.
He's still
It's
going.
making the corner.
Do it again.
Do it again. That was fun.